The rain fell lightly over the city, like the sky was crying in secret soft, almost embarrassed. The sound of the raindrops tapping on tall windows blended with the endless hum of the metropolis. A place that never stopped, never slept. Amid the horns and neon lights, she walked, earbuds in, leather folder under her arm. Isadora, 21, looked just like any other soul rushing through the end of a long Wednesday. She worked at a massive global corporation, still in a junior role, but one she held with pride. It was her first step, and she treated it like gold. Isadora was sharp, punctual, focused, her eyes always searching, revealing the gentle ambition of someone who wanted to succeed, but without ever forgetting where she came from. She grew up in a small town, the daughter of a seamstress and a baker. Her heart carried the simplicity of childhood, but her feet already belonged to the city's wide sidewalks. That afternoon, she decided to wander into the mall near her office. She wasn't ready to go home. The day had been 10 endless meetings, cold stares from coworkers, who rarely smiled. She was tired, but strangely restless, as if something was about to happen. She walked without a plan until something in a store window caught her eye. A bookstore, warmly lit like a little pocket of safety hidden inside concrete. And there, right in the middle of the display, sat a book that didn't belong there. It was old. The cover, worn black cloth, had a gold engraving that looked hand-drawn, a twisted tree with branches curling into spirals. No title, no author, just a quiet, almost hypnotic presence. Isadora walked in, pulled by an impulse she couldn't explain. The place smelled like old paper and coffee.
Owls.
Narrow aisles and towering shelves made her feel small, like a child. Again, she found a clerk and asked about the book. What book? The one in the window, with the tree on the cover. He frowned. We don't have anything like that in the system. Are you sure you saw it here? She nodded. Certain. The clerk, confused, followed her to the display. And there it was still, untouched. He grabbed the book, flipped through it quickly, then shrugged. Weird. Looks like someone left it here by mistake. But if you want it, go ahead. No barcode, no record. Maybe some old promo giveaway. No one's gonna miss it. Isadora thanked him, a little unsure, and took the book. The moment her fingers touched the cover, a shiver ran down her spine. A subtle chill like something invisible had just woken up. That night, curled up in bed with a cup of tea, she began to read. The first chapter described a young woman coming home from work. Walking through a mall where she found a mysterious book in a quiet bookstore. Isadora frowned. Too much of a coincidence? Still, she kept reading. The writing was beautiful, almost poetic. The character walked into a coffee shop, dropped her purse, and a stranger helped her gather her things. And then, it happened. Very next day, on her lunch break, Isadora stepped into a nearby cafe just to escape the usual routine. She was distracted, lost in thought, and tripped on the doormat. Her bag hit the floor. Pen, phone, ideal, scattered. Before she could bend down, a hand reached out to help. Here, let me give you a hand, a calm, steady voice said. A tall man in a dark suit, soft smile, kind eyes that seemed to recognize her, and for a split second, she felt it too, like it had already happened. That night, the world spun a little slower. She held the book tighter. Hesitating, she turned the page. The second chapter began with a single line that made her blood run cold. You should not have opened this book. The night was quiet, too quiet. From the 11th floor of her tiny apartment, Isadora could hear only the soft hum of the fridge and faintly in the distance the muffled cry of a siren. The city never truly slept, but tonight it felt like the world around her was holding its breath. The book rested on her desk, still open to the page where she'd left off. The sentence echoed in her mind like a warning. You should not have opened this book. She read it again, her eyes sharp and her hands cold. Could be a coincidence. Of course it could. The human mind loves patterns of in where none exist. But this wasn't just a pattern. She felt it, deep inside. Something had shifted. Something had awakened. She sat down, turned on the desk lamp, and took a deep breath. Slowly, she slid her finger down to the next paragraph. But now that you've started, you can't stop. What's written here is not fiction. It's a warning, a reflection. Every line is a choice, and every choice comes with a price. She slammed the book shut. Her heart was racing. It was just a story, right? No. Just a clever trick of language, designed to get inside the reader's head. She knew authors who did that. She stood up, walked to the kitchen, and made herself another cup of chamomile tea. While the water boiled, she tried to reason with herself. Maybe the man at the cafe had been a coincidence. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe her mind was playing games. But when she returned to the living room, the book was closed, and she was absolutely sure she had left it open. Isadora stopped in her tracks, feeling the blood drain from her fingertips. She placed the teacup on the table without taking a sip. "This is ridiculous," she whispered to herself. With cautious fingers, she opened the book again. The pages had changed. Chapter 2 had rewritten itself. She had only read the first few paragraphs before. But now, halfway through the chapter, a new passage appeared. "You will meet someone tomorrow. A name that will echo in your thoughts. He holds secrets, but also answers." And beneath it, scrawled like a handwritten note, "Remember the name Rafael." She stepped back as if the words had burned her. She grabbed her phone and snapped a photo of the page. She needed proof. She would show someone, maybe a friend, maybe post it on a reader's forum. This was too insane to keep to herself. The next morning, she arrived at work early. Her stomach was in knots. The events of the night before replayed in her mind. Like a fading dream, the photo was still there on her phone. She checked. The name Rafael was still on the page. This wasn't her imagination. At exactly 9:17 a.m., a group of interns was introduced to her department. Just another company routine. Isadora barely paid attention, till she heard the manager say, "This is Rafael Mora. Be with the development team for the next 3 months. Be kind, everyone." She froze. The man had the same calm eyes as the stranger from the cafe. Not the same face, exactly, but the same energy, the same feeling that he already knew. Her. Rafael looked straight at her. He smiled gently, nodded subtly, like he recognized something in her too. Isadora quickly looked away, her heart pounding. During lunch, she left before everyone else. She needed air. She needed space. To think, she walked to a small plaza near the office, where a few stubborn trees grew between benches and bricks. She sat down, opened the book again. The next page was already written, as if it had been waiting for her since that morning. "Now you've seen him, and he's seen you. The game has begun. You have 7 days to uncover his secret, or it will be too late." And barely visible in the bottom margin, "Not every secret deserves to be uncovered." For the next 2 days, Isadora did everything she could to ignore the book. She hid it in the back of her drawer, wrapped inside an old t-shirt. She buried herself in spreadsheets, reports, meetings, and coffee. Lots of coffee. But the world seemed to conspire against her search for normal. Rafael was everywhere. In the elevator. In the cafeteria. In the hallways. Always kind. Always smiling. But there was something in his eyes, a quiet knowing, behind every word, and Isadora could feel it. He was watching her, like he already knew. On the morning of the 3rd day, she gave in. Curiosity finally drowned out the fear. Her hands trembling, she pulled the book from the drawer and opened, to where she had left off. And of course, the text continued, even though she was sure there hadn't been anything written beyond that last page. Some truths are never spoken, but others hide so poorly that they end up whispering. Rafael holds a story. Search. The past in the town where it all began. There was also a new note at the bottom of the page, scribbled in uneven, shaky handwriting. "He doesn't know you have the book." Yet Isadora felt a chill creep up the back of her neck. The book was talking to her, about her. It knew what she had done, what she hadn't. That night the search began. She dug through Rafael's social media, his work profile, old LinkedIn activity, even his dusty Twitter. Anything that could lead to a clue. Then she found it. He was from a small town in the countryside, Sno Cristova de Serra. The name struck something in her memory. She'd heard of that place before, but where? After hours of digging, she finally stumbled onto something. An old link. A small town forum, long abandoned, but still partially archived. The post was from 2013. Teen disappears mysteriously in Sno Cristova de Serra, last person to see him was his best friend, Rafael Mora. The article was brief. 15-year-old boy named Lucas had vanished without a trace. No clues, no leads. Rafael, then 16, was questioned, but never charged. Rumors said the boys had argued days earlier, that Lucas had been saying strange things about voices, books that spoke to him. Isadora felt ice in her veins. She turned to look at the book, sitting silently on her desk. She approached it like it was something wild, something breathing. When she opened it again, a new page had already formed, and on it a name, Lucas. He tried to warn them. No one believed. The words consumed him, and Rafael saw too much. The book knew what she had found. It knew what she had searched. This wasn't literature. This was alive. Isadora wanted to scream, "Run! Cry!" all at once. But all she could do was close the book, lie back on her bed, and stare at the ceiling in silence. The next morning, when she arrived at work, something waited on her desk that made her blood run cold, a post-it note. No signature, bold, slanted handwriting, a man's hand. "We have a lot to talk about, coffee after work." And below that, phone number, in one word. Rafael. Isadora arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. The place was small, tucked between two office buildings, a refuge of wood and amber light, with the smell of fresh bread and freshly ground coffee. She sat by the window where she could watch who came in. Her hands were sweating, her heart pounding faster than usual, not from shyness, but instinct. Something inside her screamed, "Be careful," at 6:12 p.m. Rafael walked in. He wore a gray shirt, sleeves rolled up to the elbows. His dark eyes scanned the room until they found her, and when they did, he smiled. It was a calm, almost sad smile, as if he already knew what was coming. "Sorry to show up like this, without warning," he said, sitting across from her. "I needed to talk to you." Didn't respond right away. She just nodded and gripped the edge of her teacup between her fingers. "About what?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He hesitated, looked around, then back to her. The intensity in his gaze felt like a hand touching her soul. "About the book." For a moment, time stopped. She felt her stomach drop. You know?" "Of course I do. I found one 2 years ago." Now she was the one silent, her mind spinning in circles, trying to make sense of it all. Rafael continued, "Lucas too. He was my best friend. When we started reading, everything began to happen. It's the same things as if the book was writing our future or testing our will to move forward." "He disappeared," Isadora whispered. Rafael nodded. "He went too far, tried to write in the book, rewrite what was already planned, but that comes with a price. The book doesn't like to be defied." Her eyes widened. "You saw? You were there?" Rafael looked down, stayed silent for a long moment. "I saw him for the last time that night. He was desperate. Thought that if he could burn the book, he'd be free. But the book vanished from his house. And so did he." The silence between them thickened. "Why me? Why did this book end up in my hands?" Isadora asked, almost pleading. Rafael looked at her again. This time, no shadow of doubt or mystery in his eyes. "Only pain because you're next. And there's something the book wants you to do. It chooses people with one thing in common, a thirst for knowledge. But not all knowledge brings light. Sometimes it brings a curse." She felt a chill run down her spine. The wind outside grew colder. Rafael leaned forward and lowered his voice. The final chapter is already being written, Isadora. It doesn't appear until you're ready. But when it does, the choice will be yours, and yours alone. Choice. You'll understand. The book always reveals. She shook her head in denial, but she felt something approaching, like a wave on the horizon. That night, when she got home, she didn't take off her shoes. She went straight to her bedroom and pulled the book from the drawer with a firm tug. The cover was darker, like time had passed inside it too. When she opened it, a new chapter awaited. Final chapter, Isadora's choice, but the page was still blank. She read the sentence that appeared slowly, as if being written with every breath she took. Now, everything depends on what you're willing to lose to discover the truth. The book lay open, but the words still refused to appear. Isadora stared at the blank page as if it could scream back. Every cell in her body buzzed with anticipation. The room was silent, but the silence felt alive. She sensed that world sounds fading slowly, as if she were stepping into another space, where only she and the book existed. Then, finally, ink began to bloom on the page, as if an invisible hand were writing with dark blood. Every story has an end, but not everyone is ready to read it. She took a deep breath. The next page appeared without her turning it, and now there was text, the final chapter, with a title that sent shivers down her skin. Isadora's choice. The words described scenes that hadn't happened yet. On the quietest night, she will return to the place where it all began. Between mirrors and shelves, she will choose between truth and the life she knows. One will be destroyed. Isadora knew, in that moment, where she had to go. She put on a coat, slipped on her boots, and went down without hesitation. The city felt darker than usual, as if mourning something yet to come. She hailed a cab and headed straight to the mall. The same one. The bookstore was still there, but different. The lights were off, even though the clock still showed business hours. The window was empty. No books, no reflections. It's only her pale, frightened face staring back at her. The door was unlocked. She stepped inside. No music, no clerk. The shelves had been rearranged like someone had staged the place for a play. At the back, there was a single table, and on it a book, the same one. But this was not the copy she had brought with her. It was another, with the same twisted cover, and it was open. In the center of the store, Rafael waited, standing alone. "You came," he said, without surprise. "I had no choice. We always do." She approached the book on the table. Text was clear. Now 2 options written like a ritual, like a sentence. 1, if she destroys the book, she will forget everything and live in peace. But Rafael will disappear forever. 2, if she keeps the book, she will learn the final secret, but will become its next guardian, never to run away again. Isadora stood frozen. Tears came without warning. Her heart felt split in two. "You knew this all along?" she whispered, staring at Rafael. "I had a choice too, years ago," he answered, eyes full of truth. "I was cowardly. I let Lucas pay the price. Now, the book has chosen you, and only you can end this story." Isadora looked at the book, then at Rafael, and finally at herself. She felt the weight of every page she had read, every day she had lived since that object entered her life. She reached out and slammed the book shut. A sudden gust of wind blew from nowhere. The pages fluttered, the lights flickered, and for a moment, everything went dark. When she opened her eyes, she was alone, in the middle of the bookstore. No Rafael. No book, no memory of the days before. The bookstore was lit again. A clerk approached, smiling. "Ma'am, are you okay?" She blinked, confused. "Yes, I think so. I was just looking around." She smiled without really understanding why. Soft relief filled her chest, like waking from a nightmare you can't quite remember. Outside, the world went on as always. But on the other side of the window, something remained. A book. Forgotten. Dark cover. Golden tree. waiting for the next curious glance. END.